everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us for the fourth Forbes School of Business and Technology Colloquium of the 2021 Colloquia series, in which we will discuss using real-world experience in the classroom to increase learning. I'd like to welcome our presenter, Brandy Havens, Assistant Professor in the Department of Professional Studies within the Forbes School of Business and Technology. Brandy is a certified public accountant and chartered global management accountant. She frequently works as a technical writer and subject matter expert in the development of accounting and finance educational materials, CPA review content, and continuing professional education courses, as well as developing and teaching online accounting courses since 2006. Now, since a portion of this webinar is pre-recorded, you are highly encouraged to post freely and actively in the chat, as our speaker, Brandy, is obviously in the room and is open to answer questions and converse with you live and in real time. Brandy will also be here live after the recorded portion of the presentation to converse with you then as well. And now, please enjoy the presentation. And again, your participation in the chat is highly encouraged.
Hello everyone, welcome, and thank you for joining me for this presentation. I'm Brandy Havens, and I'm a core faculty member in the accounting department at the Forbes School of Business and Technology at the University of Arizona Global Campus. Today we are going to talk about the significance, benefits, and techniques that we can use to bring real-world experience into our online classrooms. Focus on the end goal. Most of our students are here for one key reason: to launch, grow, and advance their careers. While it's critical to learn the foundational concepts and theories taught in textbooks, students benefit most when they can visualize how they will apply the course concepts in their future career paths. Incorporating real-world examples and experience enriches class engagement and improves student learning. When we continually provide that connection to the real world, students are reminded of why they are here and what their professional goals are for career advancement or change. Let's start by talking about the benefits for students when we can effectively incorporate that real-world content and experience into the classroom. There are countless benefits associated with bringing real-world experience into the classroom. According to Schools That Can, a nonprofit organization focused on building bridges between education and employment for high school learners, the benefits of using real-world experience in the classroom include better time management skills, heightened creativity and curiosity, greater ability to apply knowledge in the real world, improvement of both academic and non-academic skill sets. These are all skill sets that are going to promote success not only in the classroom, but in the workplace as well. Now, I found this statistic, which I thought was pretty interesting. In a survey, 80% of high school dropouts indicated that they wished they'd had more opportunity to do real-world learning in school. While this survey focused on high school students, I would venture to guess that if you surveyed folks who dropped out of college, you'd likely see similar results. As faculty members, especially in the Forbes School of Business and Technology, we have a great opportunity to provide our students with that critical real-world learning component that keeps them interested in what they're learning and helps them to apply it as they move forward in their careers. Now let's take a closer look at some of the ways that we can bring real-world learning into our business courses. There are many ways to incorporate real-world experience into the classroom depending on the discipline and the content area. I teach accounting, so most of my examples relate to the accounting and finance fields, but the same basic approach can certainly be applied in other disciplines as well. Some of the techniques that I'm going to talk about include sharing your own firsthand experiences, using real-world case examples, using current real-world content, issues, and trends, inviting virtual guest speakers into the classroom, focusing on career path connections, and sharing information on professional certifications or other designations that are relevant in a specific discipline. So let's start with sharing your own firsthand experience. This is probably going to require you to look at yourself and your background through a broader lens than what you might be accustomed to doing. Examples to pull from can include things like your own experiences in education as both a student and instructor, maybe even the educational experiences of your children or others around you. Any prior life experiences. I use the term prior life because many of us moved into our current roles in education as second, third, or fourth careers. So think about what you did before, whether it was military or regular work, whatever that means based on your discipline, or even raising a family. Those experiences help to give you the perspective that you have today, and they likely made you an expert in areas such as management, leadership, and communication, sometimes without even realizing it. Then, of course, perhaps the most obvious would be your professional experience in your specific field or discipline where you teach. Don't undervalue your experiences. Just as you learn from experiencing a variety of situations, your students can learn key lessons from those experiences as well. So I would encourage you to share them freely. Other places, where many of us gain valuable experience include things like community involvement, serving with nonprofit organizations, doing volunteer work such as, schools or groups in your local area, or even serving on boards of directors or other corporate governance positions. Again, all of these experiences can be valuable in teaching our students the skill sets that they're going to need to be successful members, not only in the business world, but in their communities at large. Another technique for incorporating real-world learning is sharing case examples. I encourage you to use what's out there. No matter how strong our background is or how many years of experience we have in a discipline, it's absolutely impossible for us to experience every potential situation, case, or scenario. In essence, no one has experienced everything because it's just not possible. There will always be plenty of things that we have not, personally experienced firsthand. However, that doesn't mean that we can't share that knowledge and experience with our students. It just means that we have to do a little bit more legwork and looking for and explaining the content. Anytime we're using outside content, I think that the most critical element is to properly frame it. Anyone can share a link and say, hey, take a look at this. But in most cases, that's not going to significantly spark the student's interest, to the point that they are going to pursue this new resource. However, if we can give them some background information and explain how it relates to what we're learning in class, they're going to be far more likely to take advantage of that learning opportunity and actually look at the case. We can then present a follow-up discussion to engage the class. We can talk about, where the individual or company in the case went right or wrong, what they could have done differently, and how we might handle a similar situation if we were to encounter it in the workplace. What you see here is an example that I used recently in my Principles of Accounting 2 course, where we cover managerial accounting concepts, including cost, volume, profit analysis, which includes the consideration of sales mix. Now, this case focuses on Chipotle and how their sales mix changed amid COVID-19. Now, one of the reasons that I really like this case is that you don't have to be an accountant or a financial expert to engage in this conversation. Most students have probably been to a Chipotle or are at least familiar with the basic business model. I like to select cases and examples that most students will feel comfortable tackling. I don't want them to think that they have to already be some sort of expert, to respond or to have a meaningful thought or, idea on the topic. Another technique is using current issues and trends in the field. And again, this one is going to vary a little bit depending on your discipline. Our most critical obligation as educators is to ensure that we are preparing students to be successful in their field of study both today and tomorrow. As educators, that means we have an obligation to keep up with what's relevant and current in our disciplines. This in turn enables us to prepare our students. Now, your sources of information are going to vary depending on your discipline, but there are plenty of reputable sources of current information in just about any field. Some of the resources that I commonly use in the accounting field include professional organizations like the AICPA or the IMA, reputable journals or magazines such as Journal of Accountancy, Accounting Today, Forbes, Wall Street Journal. And then most regulatory agencies will also have a news area where you can find current events and, information on, pending legislation, press release information, spotlight topics, even information on upcoming events that they hold. For these outside sources, I use a similar approach to the one described on the case examples. I focus primarily on framing. Rather than just giving the students a link, I start with an introduction of why I'm sending them to a given link. I focus on why it's relevant in the field and how it relates to what we're studying in class. I then try to always close with some sort of follow-up question, idea, or food for thought. Essentially, I want the article or the concept to be a jumping off point for conversation. On this slide, you'll see an example that I've used in a Principles of Accounting class when we're studying adjusting entries. And again, I selected Amazon here because it's a company that most students can relate to. Because accounting and finance topics can be inherently complex, I think that oftentimes students automatically see them as being these abstract concepts that they may feel like they can't relate to. So I want to get the students thinking about how these concepts apply to businesses that they deal with on a daily basis. Now, another technique, and I'm a huge fan of this one, is to invite virtual guest speakers. Just because we teach classes online doesn't mean that we can't invite guest speakers to our class. In fact, I would argue that we have even more opportunities to use guest speakers in the online environment because we're not restricted to the people that we can get to speak to our students in person. Instead, we have a wealth of incredible speakers and presenters at our fingertips, okay? Think things like TED Talks, interviews with executives that play on the major business networks, YouTube videos of interviews with famous leaders like Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, or even HR experts that are offering career insights. When you're presenting something like this, provide these guest speakers with a proper introduction, just as you would do if you were introducing them in person. Help your students to understand why these people are experts and why their message has value. Always relate their message to what students are learning in the course or the program. On this slide, you'll see an example that I used recently in a tax accounting course. Many students who enjoy tax have hopes of working for a public firm, or some even want to start their own firm. So I found this webinar that focuses on marketing and building your brand in the accounting industry. So I share this with students and I encourage them to take a look and to share their thoughts and ideas on the topic as well. Another thing I like to use is career path guidance. I love making connections between concepts and information and the career paths that students may be following or hoping to follow one day. There are tons of directions that we can go with this, but some ideas might include Providing guidance to assist with creating effective resumes and how to be successful in job interviews. Now, initially, you may be thinking, wait, I don't need to do that. That's what career services is for. Not to worry, you're not going to steal anybody's job at career services. But B, remember that you bring a unique perspective that they may not have at career services, in that you are a subject matter expert in the field where your student may be interviewing or may be seeking employment. Most likely you either currently hold a position in the field, or you've held a position in the past where you would be responsible for hiring people into exactly the types of roles that our students are going to be looking to obtain. Therefore, you can bring to the table unique insights on things that you might look for on a resume, or questions that you might propose to a job candidate, something that career services may not have specific information on, simply because they don't work in that specific discipline. For example, as an accounting professor, I often recommend that students highlight their experience using specific systems, software, and even research tools, such as the accounting standards codification or tax research software, because these are things that can impress an employer. Okay. On this slide, you'll see some excerpts. This is from a posting that I sometimes share with students that focuses on building a resume specifically for accountants. And again, for the most part, I don't necessarily focus on just general resume building skills, because they get plenty of that with career services and other resume building resources. But what I want to focus on are the things that are specific to accounting and finance. The things that can really help to get their resume noticed in the accounting and finance field. In this little excerpt, you'll see I focus on some of the things that employers are looking for, and I kind of help them translate that into how they might use that information to boost their resume. Okay. Another thing that I'll sometimes do is share very generic examples of job opportunities that look for certain skills, ones that we're learning during the week, especially if it's a job that the students may not immediately realize requires the skills that we're learning. Now, I'm always very careful with this. I don't include any specifics on the jobs, like the location or salary or anything like that, simply because our students are scattered all over the world. But just pulling little pieces like this really helps to give the students some insight and helps them understand how the concepts that we're learning relate to real-world opportunities that may interest them at some point. And I typically underline some of those key concepts that we're learning in class. And what you'll see here on the screen, these are some examples that I've shown to students when we're studying cost behavior and budgeting. In some of the lower level accounting courses, we commonly have students that are not accounting majors. They may be majoring in business, management, or some other discipline. And invariably, some of these students will take the position that, I don't need to know any of this because I'm not going to be an accountant. So for that reason, I like to go the extra mile to show them that these concepts can be applied and used in fields outside of just accounting, fields that they may at some point want to pursue. So, I want them to understand that regardless of their career path, many of these skills are going to be valuable to them in the future. And this actually segues into the next technique, which is sharing professional growth opportunities. I normally approach this one by sharing information on professional certifications and designations in the field. There's a variety of ways for individuals to grow professionally and advance in their fields. And as educators, I think we would be remiss if we didn't share this information with our students. Certifications are becoming a great way for candidates to set themselves apart in competitive job markets. And in most cases, it's also more affordable for a person to obtain a new certification compared with, pursuing another college degree. So, play a key role in making your students aware of the designations that are applicable and desirable in the field, and maybe even share guidance or information where they can learn more about these. And so I'm just including a couple of examples that I normally share. The CPA is probably the most commonly known designation in the accounting field, and so of course I share some information on this. Let students know where they can go to learn more about the exam, and even include a link where they can learn what's required in their specific state to get the designation. And then sometimes I also like to share some lesser known designations that may be of interest to our students, especially depending on what other disciplines they may enjoy and may be involved in. For example, here's a certified information systems auditor. This one tends to be of particular interest to our students that also enjoy technology. So I know that there are tons of certifications in finance and project management and information technology and just about any other field. In fact, most fields have some types of designations that help to set individuals apart based on their demonstrated abilities, experience, and skill sets. And I think we have a great opportunity to serve our students by making them aware of these opportunities to continue learning and growing in the field. So as educators at the University of Arizona Global Campus, we have a tremendous opportunity to serve our students, many of whom are already working and looking to grow and advance professionally. By incorporating different types of real-world learning into our classroom, we can help our students relate and apply their new skill sets to their current and future career paths. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or would like to share ideas, feel free to contact me at brandy.havens@uagc.edu. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much, Deb. I appreciate that. I see that Marilyn has her hand up. Did you have a question for us, Marilyn? And if anybody else has any comments or maybe other tips and techniques that you like to use, feel free to jump in and share those as well. I know mine was pretty biased in that it was from very much the perspective of accounting and finance, but I know that we have folks from lots of different disciplines here. So I know you guys probably have a lot of interesting techniques that you use in the classroom as well. You're so very welcome, Ramona. Thank you for attending.
I don't see any questions on my end.
I'm thinking, does that mean that I was very thorough in the presentation? Is that what that means, Stephanie?
That's what it means. They're marinating.
Well, like I said in the presentation too, if anybody has any thoughts after this that you'd like to share, I'm all about brainstorming. I love brainstorming with other people. So if you've worked with me before, you know that. So if anybody wants to, to reach out to me after this, feel free to send me an email or message me in Teams. I would love to brainstorm or collaborate on any sort of projects. I think, as I said in the video, I think most of our students they really love seeing that real world connection, in the classroom. So I'm all about learning new techniques and ideas for really bringing the stuff to life for them.
I found the presentation very helpful, and there were a lot of things that I'm going to take to my own classroom.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, exactly, Ramona. I think that's very big. And I think that's especially true as, the students in the program, they take a variety of courses, and not every course, are they going to be able to immediately relate to and think, oh, I can use this, at work right now. There are going to be a lot of courses that they don't make that immediate connection. So I think when we can kind of help them make that connection and understand how these skills are going to be useful, especially as they start to advance into those higher level management roles, I think we're really, equipping them for success in the future.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up, but thank you so much, Brandy, and thank you everyone for attending. Please complete the follow-up survey. It's been posted in the chat. The survey, as well as the recording of this presentation, can be found on the CETL YouTube channel, CETL website, and Ask CETL as well after a few days. If you don't have any other questions, then have a great day. And thanks again, Brandy, for this wonderful presentation.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, everyone, for attending.